Okay.
Now
Um,
we're recording.
yes, now we're recording. I don't even know. Oh, now it's moving.
Yeah, now it's moving. It's fine.
Yeah.
Can
So,
I hear you? Do you hear
yeah,
me?
but I'm afraid to.
Don't touch anything.
I know. I don't even understand.
I don't even breathe.
I
I'm not
can't.
going to move. I'm going to be
But
here.
it sound no. But I mean, it sounds crystal clear.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know. Whatever. How are you, Jeanette?
I'm a bundle of nerves.
Oh, sweet baby Jesus. I don't know. Oh, Lord.
Well, now I'm fine. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
How was your day?
Um, it was okay. I ran into a couple of really good TED Talks. Tracy Ellis Ross from Blackish.
Mm-hmm.
She did a whole TED Talk on being over 40, single, and no kids.
Oh. So
And
do you have some highlights?
huh?
Do you have some highlights?
Well, the highlight was that she runs into the same thing that we run into. I don't run into it as much as I used to in my 30s and 40s, but the old, well, you can always adopt, or
yes,
you can still have children, and it's just like, but I don't want children.
mm-hmm.
That's why I don't have any. And being married, like, oh, you'll find someone, like I don't know. She was just talking about the things that we go through, and
Yes.
what people assume, society assumes when you're over a certain age and you have chosen to be single and not to have children. And it's interesting because she talks about, I remember a few episodes back, we talked about, a lot of times that whole being married was more about you being chosen. Someone chose you.
Yes.
And as you get more into loving yourself, it's you choosing yourself and your life. And this is my life, and this is how I want to live it. And I just thought it was
without any apologies.
right. And I just thought it was interesting that she tapped on a lot of the things that we've discussed. And you would think she's a celebrity, and but not that she's not a person, but I'm just saying that it was just interesting that she goes, I've accomplished so much, and people still will ask me about being married and having kids. I mean, she's gotten a gold,
How universal. It shows you how universal this is.
Right. But also how society deems women, if you have not been married and have kids, then your life is worthless. Like your life doesn't have meaning.
Yeah.
And she was saying that, like, so what are you saying? I don't have a meaningful life because I don't have children and I'm not married? Because that's essentially what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like, I feel it interesting that people always assume because you've decided not to have children or whatever, it's being selfish. And I like to, the selfless act of having, whatever. But I don't think of it as being selfish. I think it's being self-more. That's my new take on it.
Well, and I had mixed feelings about this idea of priests being celibate or not having families. And I realized that you really can't serve two masters, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
That if you are a parent or a husband, you will be more likely to think about your immediate family than you are to think about your family through faith, or that there are other children or other people who need what it is you have to offer.
Right. Well, and is it Peter or Paul in the Bible who's single? And he talks about being single, and maybe it's Peter, and that you can still do things in the world if you're married and have children, but the person who's single, you definitely can contribute a lot more to the world because you don't have, there's a singular focus. But I think so many, and I remember one time someone did say that to me, oh, well, it's selfish if you don't have children. And I thought to myself, okay. And I mean, I don't understand how people get this mindset of, if you have chosen not to have children because you know who you are as a person and what all it takes to be a parent, and you've made a conscious decision not to do that, I think that's the most selfless thing you could possibly do. Yes. Because I think too many people don't think about it in that way. If I'm not ready to give 100% to this being, then I think that to me is a selfless act, because I know that I can't be there 100%. Nor do I want to be, which might be, right. But I'm being honest. I mean,
Well, I think that's also the problem with a lot of people who don't have children. They can tend to be perfectionistic.
Mm-hmm.
If I can't do this 100%, then I'm not going to do it at all. And there are a lot of people who would have been great parents that succumb to that and never have children.
Right. Or it's just I just never had that maternal thing.
Well,
I can see babies and think, oh, how cute, but I'm not taking them home with me. But I just thought that was an interesting TED Talk that she had, because she's and she's unapologetic about it, which I think we all should be. And I think after a certain age, we are very unapologetic about it. Mm-hmm. And then after a certain age, I think our families they don't even think about it anymore. It's just,
I think after a certain age, our parents have given up the hope that is going to happen, or hopefully they're supportive in your choices, and you can go on to have the life that you want to lead, as opposed to be in a life where you're feeling it's all obligations, which leads to a huge resentment.
Yeah, and it's funny because before my mother passed, she said to me, "You're good. You're doing good, because you don't need and you don't need to be married, and your life is better because you are single." And I thought, is she just saying it to herself so she can she can feel better about it, or does she? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what? It's good that you don't have anyone. I don't know. I have no idea, but I just thought it was interesting that she just came to that conclusion when I was in my 40s. Then all of a sudden it was. But I think it's just like she just gave up. She was just like, you know what? I think she's better not having somebody in her life, being married. But yeah, I don't know. I just always find that rather interesting.
Very, very.
But that's, a lot of what our movement is about being okay with this choice that we've made. Because let's face it, a lot of people say, well, you're saying it's your choice, but it's just because nobody wants to marry you. And it's just like, well, yeah, there might have been a time in my life. But if I really, as we've seen, if you really, really, really want to get married, there's somebody out there that'll marry you. If that's your end game.
Yes, everybody has someone.
And what is it? Every pot has a lid.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, is that if that's really your end game, you can find someone to marry you. Mm-hmm. So then it does become a question of my choice in this. I'm not actively looking on Match, or what is the one for us now? Silver Singles.
Right. Or Our Time.
Our Time. Oh Lord. So I'm not actively looking on that, but there's nothing wrong with doing that. But I'm just saying that that's not my end game. And that I'm okay
how has your end game changed?
What do you mean in terms of being single?
Yeah, how is it different from when you were in your 20s or 30s?
Well, the end game in my 20s and 30s was to get a man. That was the end game.
Mm-hmm.
Get a man. Well, not just get any man. Get a man who loves me, who wants to be with me.
Yes.
My end game now is to live a life that is fully joyful and stress free in a way that I'm still engaged with life. So the end game now for me, it doesn't have a button on it if I have a Mrs. Because my end game might be that I that will never happen. And I'm okay with that. You know, I think it's about, would I like to have a relationship? Sure, absolutely. But that's not my end game anymore, is to be a wife. And there was a time in my life that was an end game, right?
Yes.
And that's not necessarily the case anymore. That's not the case at all anymore. I don't even think about that in that way anymore. You know, I mean, huh?
Feel freer.
Yeah, because I think if you're looking at life of what you don't have, you miss what you do have.
Yes.
And what I have is freedom. I have choices. I can get up and do things. And that means, and it's interesting because that means more to me than having a ring on my finger. And I never would have thought that that's how I feel, coming into this. Because if you'd have told me at 25 that, you're going to be 56 and still single, I probably would have jumped off the highest building because, that was just a life that I assumed would be so hard, horrors. Oh,
yeah.
But that's not the case. Far from it. Actually, I have more confidence now not being in that kind of headspace than when I was in my 20s and 30s. When I was, dateable, if you will, and I think a lot of it has to do with that.
I find that you're still very dateable.
Oh, yeah, but you know what I'm saying? I think a lot of it has to do with the pressures that we put on ourselves to be marketable. And when you find yourself not in the market, there's a lot of pressure that is taken off. And even now, if I fancy myself interested in somebody, none of the things that used to occur to me now.
Mm-hmm. Such as?
How will I have to change myself, or oh my God, if this person really sees who I am, they're going to run. Now I'm like, this is who I am. Like it or lump it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a good thing.
What would you tell your 30-year-old self looking at 56 and single?
You're the one who's the prize.
Mm-hmm.
You're the prize. Stop thinking that people who turn you down are the prize and that you're not deserving of someone's attention or love, or you're deserving of all of that. And just because it doesn't work out, or just because the person's not attracted to you, does not devalue you. You're just as valuable without someone choosing you as you are when someone chooses you. That's what I would tell myself.
That is a big life lesson.
Yes. Yes, it is. But, I think I mean, we all go through those phases of not being too happy with ourselves. Little things. I mean, little insecurities. That's always going to happen. You're part of the human condition, so of course. But none of that really, the stuff that used to plague me, it doesn't anymore. I mean, that, you know, the anxiety of, oh, this person, I like this person doesn't like me. And that means that I'm a horrible person, or I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty, all those things.
Yes.
And interesting, and to be honest, all of those things might be true. It just very well may be true, but it doesn't define it. It doesn't make me define myself as a loser, or as, because maybe I'm not smart enough or pretty enough or whatever enough for this person, this particular person. But now it's okay. It's all right. It's fine. I mean,
You're happier with you.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, not everybody's for everybody, right?
Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No. And just because I think a lot of times for me, it was always, oh, I'm not pretty enough. And that meant something. That really meant something. That person doesn't think I'm pretty enough for them. Right. Mm-hmm. Or if you saw someone that you were really attracted to and they thought the same way about you, oh, you had won the golden ticket, boy. This person is saying I'm okay. I've been validated. Yeah. Especially if they were handsome. Oh, I've been validated. So, but now it's kind of like, yeah, it's nice if people find you attractive. I'm not going to lie and say it isn't. I mean, but if I've learned as you get older, if someone you are attracted to doesn't find you attractive, it's okay. I mean, yeah, it's a little disappointing, but it's not gut-wrenching, like, oh my God, why can't I look like Halle Berry? Oh, honey, I was Nora Desmond back in the day, child.
Oh,
what?
Very dramatic.
What? Oh, I was in such angst because I just, why, Lord, why?
Why?
Not so much anymore.
It sounds like life is a lot less drama.
Well, also, you get older and you kind of forget. Sometimes I forget why I'm supposed to be sad. I'm like, oh, right, that's right. I'm insecure about my. I'm insecure about my thighs. Oh, right, yeah, got that.
Oh, that.
Yeah, forget about it. I don't. Yeah, that's the only good thing about menopause is it makes you very forgetful. And she's like, I'm supposed to be upset about something.
I'm sure of it. There's
something I'm supposed to be upset about. But I can't.
Maybe not.
And then I'm like, oh, right. Yep. Right. So I think it's more about that than anything. It's not like I've come into this newfound strength. No, it's just because I'm getting older and I forget things. That's all that is.
Well, I feel you underestimate the power of your own enlightenment.
Yes. Well, for you too. Because I know that you didn't even think you were going to get married.
True.
And so I'm wondering, did you have were you hesitant about getting married?
It felt at the time like it was a natural progression because of the person I was with, and we both were kind of, well, interesting. When I asked him about it, he always assumed he was going to get married, and I just assumed that I never would, not for any reason of feeling stridently wanting to be single. It's just I hadn't put that in my list of life goals, and I've always been a rather goal-oriented person. You know,
Right,
I
right,
go to the library and figure out how to be
right,
a doctor, then how to be a psychiatrist, and then write out the plan and the spreadsheet for it, and you just keep going from one
right.
thing to the other. And you know, as I've said before, it's like that Lichtenstein picture, a woman there crying, saying, "Oh, I forgot to have the baby."
Right,
You know,
right.
part of it was that, but another part of it was I really felt like having children just wasn't something that was part of my life plan. And marriage, once I met him, I entertained the notion, but before that, I hadn't.
Mm. So when your husband proposed, was it, oh, right, okay, sure.
Well, it became a pragmatic thing because I had met him when I was still a student, and then he had his life, and once I moved to New York, we kind of got back acquainted. He had a girlfriend. I knew her. Actually, we didn't really hang out together, but I knew her and didn't have a thought one way or another about her. But I still liked him a whole lot. But being the passive person that I am, it was very much like a Jane Austen novel. I wasn't going to say anything, and he wasn't going to say anything.
So,
and as it turned out, the relationship with this girlfriend didn't work out.
right.
And then we kind of drifted together. And
But you hadn't dated before, right? When you knew him in school, had you dated, or you were just friends?
Together for probably about 10 or 12 years because we wanted to make sure we were making the right decision. And then marriage just seemed like, oh, you know, this would be financially advantageous, and we're together anyway, and we both love each other and love each other's company, so let's make that final step. And I wanted a party, so
yeah.
there you go.
But before you moved to New York, were you guys dating, or no, you were just friends?
We were friends.
Oh, okay. And then it just happened. Okay.
Yeah. So it's not the way I would set out a blueprint for this is how you should
No.
partner and get married. But we were very good friends. I, before marrying, knew his family fairly well, and we would spend holidays with them. And again, we had by that point, a lot of friends in common, and kind of just thought the same way, and it just felt like it was a natural progression.
Right.
And so, you know, we got married on both of our lunch hours down at City Hall, and then after that I thought, this is an excuse for a party. And then we had a reception, and then after that, we, you know, decided, well, you know, let's have a honeymoon.
Oh, okay.
It was all planned in less than 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah, after 15 years.
Yeah, but it's interesting because I think a lot of couples say that who plan these large weddings with all the stress of you know everything. Mm-hmm. It's like maybe we should have eloped, or maybe we should just went down to City Hall.
Right.
But
well, it was very interesting. You know, our plan. Okay, we can do this on X day.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to City Hall. Do you have someone who can be a witness? And so we went, kind of dressed up, and then after that, we with his friend who eventually became a best man and a friend of mine went out to lunch, and then after that, we both went back to work, and then it just happened that I found this place that was just ideal for a reception.
Right.
And it really did come together quite magically. And as I look back on it, it was a kind of event and venue that these days would have cost at least 5 times more than what we paid. And it just, everything lined up for
right.
us to be able to
Right.
to have this party. And that was our aim. We told people, we don't want any gifts. We want to have a big party. And it was really a good party, I must say.
Yeah, if you're going to have a party, you might as well be a good one.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And then you get to wear a dress. Yeah. So I love to shop. So it was one of those things where I just enjoyed going and trying on wedding dresses. So
I used to have a friend who would do that. She would go
Really?
to bridal shops and try on wedding dresses. And I remember when she told me that, I thought that was odd. I was like, oh yeah, I guess you could. Because why, because it never occurred to me. If you're not getting married, why would you go and try on wedding?
Yeah,
And she would go and try on wedding dresses all the time.
Well,
I just thought it was so bizarre. Huh?
No accounting for taste.
Well, it just seems strange to me. Like, you're not, because honestly, you got to come up with a real good story.
Well, yes.
Who he is and when you're planning to get, like, all of that would make me nervous. Because I couldn't probably remember the lie that I told. He'd have to have a whole other life. I'll never forget, I was on the subway one day and this guy was trying to talk to me. And, he said, he says, well, are you single? And I said, no. And he said, are you married? Oh, he goes, are you married? And I said, no. I said, I have a boyfriend. And he goes, well, how long have you been together? And I said, 5 years. And he goes, 5 years? And he doesn't want to marry you? And so then I thought to myself, I'm so pathetic that my pretend man don't even want to marry me. And I thought, how sad. I can't even have a pretend husband. It's kind of sad when some man would say, why don't he want to marry you? And I'm like, yeah, why don't he want to marry me?
You're going to get it.
I have given him the best fantasy years of my life, and he don't want to marry me. But yeah, I started cracking up. I'm like, Shanti, you're so pathetic that you can't even have you can't even have a husband in a lie.
Well, I don't know what he would have said had I told him how long I had been with my boyfriend before we got married.
I know, but and I always feel, and it's like, when you don't want to be bothered, it's better to say, yeah, I got somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is.
Because, it's just easier that way.
Yes.
But it just so happens this one, he wanted to have a whole conversation about my relationship. And I said, see, this is the reason why I could never go to a bridal shop.
Right.
Because the person would be asking me all these questions and I'd be like, yeah.
Yeah, because they always ask you when the event is.
And where did you meet? And how did you meet? And
right.
Well, I was yesterday at work. I was talking to a friend and we were talking about 9/11, and I was saying how for the longest, I still to this day haven't seen any all the footage that was going on and all the news things that were happening because my office was 3 blocks from there. So I was in the thick of it, but I was telling her that I've only seen one documentary, and it was about this woman who pretended that she was in one of the towers. And I'm saying this to say, she had this whole story about the fact that her fiance died and that she was saved by one of the firemen, and one of the firemen that actually passed away, she told the family that he was the one who saved her. She ended up speaking at the memorial service. She was there when they broke ground at the new, when Giuliani and a few of the councilmen and all the people from New York, they all rallied because they were breaking ground for the new towers and stuff. She was presented with not a key to the city, but she was instrumental in a lot of the press and everything that went on. And all that to say, she lied. It was a whole lie. She was never there. She wasn't even in New York. But it's a fascinating documentary because that just goes back to what I was saying about a lie. She had to come up with a whole story about this fiance who didn't even exist, and that they were just about to get married, but he died in the tower, and she was saved, and this whole thing. And come to find out, she lied about the whole thing. And the family asked her to speak at the memorial service, and she spoke. And it was a total lie.
Well, it brings up how desperate people can be to be accepted, or how much they need either recognition or some kind of validation that they've lived or that they're important.
Right. And then there's no way that she could have, and she ended up being in the survivors group. And she found this whole new group of friends and people that they all experienced the same thing because they were all in the towers and they survived. Mm-hmm. And so she's in this group with all these people sharing the story that didn't exist. It didn't happen. And I just found it so fascinating, like that she could get so entrenched in this lie that I think it's on some level she really believed it.
Yes, there are people who do live in that kind of fantasy.
Yeah.
And it brings up that whole idea of, hopefully as we get older, we begin, as you said earlier, to appreciate the fact that we are the prize, and that our lives are fine the way they are. We don't have to embellish them. We just have to live.
Right. And that, I don't know. I just found that the most fascinating thing is that this woman, and it wasn't for a month. This was for like 4 years that she carried on this lie. And then when she's finally caught, all the people that she had become close with, they were all devastated by it because they had been hoodwinked for all these years. And then one of the guys who's, I guess he was a president, she basically got him outed of the group and she became president. So it's like, it's one thing if you know for a fact you shouldn't belong there, but then you're actually going to get the person who really belongs there out so you can become, I don't know. It was the most fascinating story. But all that to say that I could never make up that kind of story if I was going to a bridal shop. I'd probably have to tell him.
Yes.
I'm manifesting a husband, so I'd like to try on a gown, and then nobody would help me because they know that they wouldn't get a commission because I'm not buying a gown actually. So.
Well, you never know. You might then ultimately decide that you're going to put one on hold and pay on it for X amount of time.
Yeah, no.
So they might get some commission.
Well, first of all, I would never do that because I know that my taste would probably change. The one thing that I thought I wanted,
Well, that brings us back to the thing of saying what we think we want in our 20s, 30s, or even our 40s may not necessarily be the thing that is most important to us at this point in our lives. And I know I would tell my younger self that whatever seems so painful today may not even register in 5 years or 10 years, or you'll have different goals.
And the thing that's going to
take away all the sting of the pain you're in at the moment,
right? And the thing that
listens to their future self anyway.
Yeah, and the thing that wipes you out is not going to wipe you out. The thing that you think you'll never get over, there's going to be one day that you're going to forget about it.
Yes.
And you're going to go, oh, wow.
What was I thinking?
I thought that I would never, ever, ever get over that. And that's not necessarily the case.
So true.
Okay.